All right, we can call the meeting to order here at 7:05. And do you start recording? There we go. All right, and dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance, with us not being in an area to do that. And we'll go on to roll call. In Mr. Kolecki's absence, Ms. Otto, would you mind doing the roll call for us?
Okay. Ken Dignan,
Present.
Brad Kuzno,
Here.
Scott Gus Stuffrance. I'm gonna say it messed up. Scott
Gustafson.
Gustafson, here.
Gustafson. Okay.
No
and
problem, thank you.
here. And my apologies.
All right, and that does give us a quorum. Please note that Mr. Kolecki is absent at this time.
Yep.
Adoption of the agenda. I don't have any changes. If no one else has any changes, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt.
Okay, so motion, is there support?
I'll support.
Okay, the motion by Gustafson, supported by Otto to adopt the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Let the record signify that Mr. Kuzno raised his hand in favor. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Correspondence. Ms. Christian, do we have any correspondence that you're aware of?
No, none at this time, Mr. Dignan. We haven't heard
Okay.
anything or written any written correspondence.
Okay. And Ms. Bird did not provide any correspondence. So with that, we can move on to opening our public hearings for this evening. We are going to have two cases in our public hearing. In the public hearing, what we'll do is hear from the applicant about what they're trying to do. Ms. Christian will then go over her report. We'll hear from anyone from the audience in favor or opposed, and then possibly hear from the applicant again. And after that, we will then hear the second public hearing and close the hearings and move forward. Is there a motion to open the public hearings?
Make the motion
So
to
move.
open hearings.
Okay, the motion by Otto, supported by Kuzno. Any discussion on the motion? Can we do a roll call vote, please, Ms. Otto?
Yes. Brad,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
and Jackie, yes. And Greg is absent.
Correct. All right, our first case tonight for our public hearing is case JZBA 2000003. It's a recommendation to approve with conditions, or deny the request of James Azar, 587 West Northfield Church Road. The applicant proposes to split the parcel into 3 lots measuring 5 acres and 10 acres to accommodate 3 single-family dwellings. The proposed lot split requires the construction of a private road to provide the required street frontage. Due to the parcel shape, the length of the private road will be longer than 1,000 feet. The applicant proposes to build a 20-foot wide Class B private road, with the ordinance requiring a Class A private road. The parcel in question is parcel B0231100010, and is zoned AR Agricultural District. Is the applicant present?
Yes, hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can hear you. Is that Brandon?
Yep.
Excellent. So can you give us an idea of kind of where you're at, your vision, what you're looking for, and then we will hear also from Ms. Christian.
Yeah, so thanks again, board, for letting us bring this request back in front of you guys, as well as Mary and Vidya. They've been very helpful through this process of allowing us to bring this request back in front of the board. So as Ken stated, this is the project at 587 West Northfield Church Road. It's a 20-acre site. It is essentially the same variance request that we brought to you back in the summer, with one large caveat. The fact is that we did remove the marijuana grow facility from the site, and we are only proposing now 3 residential properties to be accessed off a 2,100 foot long private road. So as Ken said, we are asking for a variance request for the reduction of the private road from a Class A to a Class B. That would be from a 32 foot wide road to a 20 foot wide road. You know, our arguments still stand, even with the removal of the commercial property, that this reduction from a Class A to a Class B allows our clients to preserve the natural features that exist on the property. And that's both with the landmark trees as well as the existing protected wetlands. So, you know, we can go through fine detail, but essentially we wanted to bring this back in front of you guys because we really felt that with the removal of the marijuana grow facility, that it was a request that we thought definitely stands, and that you guys, you know, I guess we would love to see what you guys have to say about the project.
Okay, Brandon, I appreciate that. Ms. Christian, would you like to go through your report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To summarize the
Absolutely.
project in brief, the parcel is located in the AR Agriculture District, and the applicant's proposal is to split it into 3 lots that measure 5 acres, 5 acres, and 10 acres to accommodate 3 single-family dwellings. The proposed split requires the construction of a private road in order to provide street frontage as required under the Land Division Act. Due to the shape of the parcel, the length of the private road, as was mentioned by Brandon, is more than 2,000 feet long, and the applicant's proposal is to build a Class B private road. Previously, as they mentioned, they submitted a proposal to build 3 dwellings and a marijuana grow facility. That request for variance was tabled by the Zoning Board of Appeals at their meeting held on July 20th of 2020. The applicant has submitted a revised proposal at this time, which eliminates the marijuana business. The reason why this is being processed as a new application rather than a continuation of the old one is because every time a variance application is received, it is reviewed based on the merits of the circumstances surrounding it. Our previous analysis of this case was significantly dependent on the fact that a marijuana or a commercial enterprise was also proposed. So after last meeting, the applicant withdrew their application, and we indicate that any hearing was based purely on residential uses of the property. Now, the request for private road requires 1 variance from the zoning ordinance, Article 24, Supplementary Regulations, Section 36-719, Private Roads and Driveways, subsection G, specifications for right-of-way and roadways 1A4, which requires a Class A road for any private road that has a length of more than 1,000 feet, measured from the roadway center line of the public road to the center line of the other intersection road or the center of the turnaround. Now, based on the ordinance standards, which are set on state law for reviewing any request for variance, I shall analyze those in brief. Strict compliance with the ordinance standards would be unnecessarily burdensome and would prevent the applicant's use of the property. That is basically a summary of the first criteria. As I mentioned, the subject site is a conforming lot in the AR district that meets the lot width and area requirements. The applicant purchased the property with the intent of building single-family dwellings on it. The applicant's justification in requesting the variance is that a Class A private road Even though it exceeds 1,000 feet, the reason why a Class A is typically required is because of fire department requirements. And their proposal to build a Class B road will still serve the fire department. The applicant also contends that the creation of a Class B road will help save landmark trees on the site and states that East Northfield Church Road is a public street and of narrower width along the site's frontage. When the applicant previously appeared before you, the proposal did include a marijuana operation. We had concerns that a Class B road to serve a commercial use or a facility would set a precedent for other similar requests. Commercial uses receive truck and other vehicular traffic, which typically require a full-width roadway with paved access. To our knowledge, the township has been consistent in requiring appropriate road width and material for any commercial development or a non-residential development. The applicant had no demonstrated hardship at the time other than a financial to build a Class B road. But the revised proposal at this time does not have marijuana anymore, and it limits the use strictly to residential. The traffic received would be consistent with a single-family dwelling. The township has several other single-family residential lots which are served by a Class B road, similar to the one being proposed by the applicant. The only issue of concern is the road design for fire access, and it is our understanding that the fire department finds the proposed Class B road acceptable to serve the dwellings and allow for adequate turnaround and access for emergency vehicles if it would be needed. The applicant had stated that the roadway design is to allow for minimum tree removal on the site to ensure minimal impact, because the site does have extensive wetlands in the middle. So in order to get to the back of the parcel, you will have to cross over the wetlands. The township engineer had pointed out that the applicant will require a permit from Eagle, formerly MDEQ, in order to do that. We believe with the commercial use taken out, proposal has been significantly altered. Compliance with the ordinance standards would require a wider road width, which means more wetlands would be taken out and more removal of natural vegetation. With the elimination of the commercial use, the Class B private road to serve the dwellings will maintain the rural residential character of the area, which is pretty characteristic in that part of the township too. Approval of the variance will provide substantial justice to the applicant. It will allow them of other property owners. This is not setting a precedent. As I previously mentioned, there are similar roadways within the township serving other homes. With regard to whether it's the minimum variance being requested, the variance, as I mentioned, is to provide a Class B rather than a Class A. The road surface and other details will still have to be engineered. So there is no minimum variance to be granted in this case. The variance that they're requesting is whole as it is. The next criteria is the need for variances due to unique circumstances peculiar to the land. Now, there are no unique circumstances peculiar to this parcel. The applicant states that they purchased a long and narrow parcel, which had already been split, providing access with the Class A road would prove to be a hardship for them. Now, land divisions are done for various reasons. Just because a lot split is granted does not guarantee the buildability of a parcel. Sometimes lot splits are done simply for tax purposes. There are other similar long and narrow parcels within the Ag district, which will also require a roadway at such time when their owners decide to develop them. However, the Class B road is not unusual in the AR district. The next criteria is the problem resulting in the need for variance is not self-created. We believe the variance is partly self-created. The applicant purchased the parcel knowing that it was severely limited by wetlands that are located on it. Because of the way the wetlands are located, in order to build any home in the rear portion of the parcel, you're going to have to build a really long roadway in order to reach a higher point that is not wet. So the actual physical limitations on the property are beyond the control of the applicant. So partly it's not self-created. And finally, the variance will be in harmony with the spirit and intent of this ordinance and will not be detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare. We do not believe building a Class B road will have an impact on public health, safety, and welfare. With only 3 dwellings being built, no more traffic than what would be expected of any single-family residential area, and the fire department has said that they do not have a problem with the road for emergency access. So it wouldn't be a threat to public health, safety, and welfare. Would you like me to go over my recommendation at this time or wait until the public hearing?
No, we can go over that in new business. What I'd like to do now is ask if there are any members of the public that would like to address the board in favor of the applicant. If so, if you could raise your hand. You can also do that. Video, what is is it *6?
I believe so. There were two gentlemen who were
Diagram.
waiting, Bob and Rob, but I believe they are for this case. But Rob has unmuted. Rob, would you like to speak to this case?
Not to this case, thank you. I'm part of the second case, so this is very interesting, though.
Okay,
All
the
right,
gentleman,
sir.
Bob, is he?
With you?
Okay, doesn't look like anybody else is waiting. There is nobody
All
else,
right.
Chairman.
Not seeing anyone raising their hands, I will ask if there are any members of the public that would like to address this case in opposition of the applicant's request. *6 if you're on the phone to raise your hand, or raise your hand here. This time I don't see anyone raising their hand. Watch closely. I will ask the applicant again, Brandon, if there is anything you have to add to what Ms. Christian has said. Right now you're muted.
No, I think Vidya summed it up quite well.
There you go. Okay, with that, what we will do is we will commence with the case JZBA 2000003's public hearing and move on to our next public hearing. And then we will address these cases in new business, item 8. Thank you, Brandon, and we will speak with you soon. So the next case before us, the public hearing is on case JZBA 2000002. This is for the recommendation of approve with conditions, or deny the request of Robert Hobbs, the Equity Build Company Incorporated, representing Mom's Love LLC, Susan Morris, 6140 Whitmore Lake Road, Whitmore Lake, Michigan, 48189. The applicant is proposing to build a new shed and redo existing porches on a non-conforming dwelling. The parcel is zoned agricultural, AR district, and has a parcel number of B0229200014. A proposal will require the following variances from the zoning ordinances. Article 6, regulation setbacks, section 36-158 4A, front yard setback, and section 36-158 4B, rear yard setback. And Rob, are you speaking on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I can. Do you have anything to summarize above and beyond what I've just said? You're welcome to do so at this time.
Okay. If you look at the parcel, it's a strange shape, being a very narrow triangle. And if you, on one of the drawings there, it's very clear where the right-of-ways come, they actually overlap each other, and which means the entire buildable, or the entire area where the buildings are, is already overlapped front and back by the right-of-way. So anything we do would require a variance. And so all we're looking to do is well, first of all, we need to do drainage work around the house to keep the basement dry. And when we do that, we'll be breaking down the porches, which are already broken. So we're going to be replacing those. And Miss Christian has made it clear that that's under the maintenance. So that one doesn't really fall into this variance application. The second part that we're here for is to knock down the little shed that's there and put a bigger shed for her. And by doing that, again, anything we do is going to be within both the front and rear setbacks, as you can see. So I asked the board to please grant the variance so we can go ahead and get her shed up before winter.
All right, great. Thank you very much. We will come back to you, Rob, before the end of the public hearing. Now I'd like to ask Ms. Krishnan to go ahead and go over her report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have reviewed the variance application, as you mentioned, by Mr. Hobbs of the Equity Build Company. The applicant proposes to build a 17-foot by 28-foot shed and redo porches on an existing dwelling that's located at 6140 Whitmore Lake Road. It is on the east side of Whitmore Lake Road, north of East Northfield Church Road, and is zoned AR Agriculture District. Now, the proposal requires 2 variances from the zoning ordinance. Both are from Article 6 AR Agriculture District, Section 36-158, Regulations and Standards, subsection 4A. Front yard setback along Whitmore Lake Road, 50 feet required, 24.3 feet proposed to the shed, a 25.7-foot variance is being requested. Second variance is from subsection 4B, rear yard setback, 50 feet minimum required, 15.9 feet is being proposed to the shed, a 34.1-foot variance is being requested. The standards based upon which we reviewed this request for variances is as follows. Strict compliance with the ordinance standards would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property or will make the restrictions unnecessarily burdensome. Now, as Rob mentioned, the parcel is a long and narrow triangle-shaped parcel and is non-conforming with respect to both lot width and lot area. The existing dwelling is placed towards the south end of the parcel, and it does not meet the front and rear yard setbacks either of the A district, which are 50 feet each. Now, the existing shed is also non-conforming, and it's going to be replaced with a larger 17 by 28-foot shed. The porches are also being redone on the existing dwelling. However, in prior conversations with the applicant, it is our understanding that the porches have started disintegrating and they're structurally not sound. So what the applicant is doing is, as part of trying to make the basement dry, they are replacing the porches in their current footprint. So the replacement of the porches qualifies as maintenance of an existing non-conforming structure under our zoning ordinance and is permitted. Now, the applicant's justification in requesting the variances for the shed is that the existing shed is going to be demolished and the new shed is being constructed to meet the needs of the residents. But the unusual pointed shape of the parcel with intersecting front and rear setback lines and location of septic tank drain fields in the northern portion of the site really leaves very little space on the site for any structure to be built, which would actually meet the requirements of the ordinance. So even though the proposed lot coverage is minimal, the subject site has very less buildable area when compared to its neighbors. We do acknowledge that this parcel is very unusually shaped, which makes, once you take out the front, the rear, and the side yard setback, very little space is left for actually placing any structure. Now, if we were to place a new shed in conformance with the ordinance standards, it would likely have to be on top of the septic drain fields, or it would end up being more than 100 feet away from the dwelling, which really does not serve any storage purposes for the convenience of the residents. Such a requirement can be construed as being unnecessarily burdensome when the site is far below the lot coverage limitations for the parcel and also has only a modest dwelling located on it. Second criteria, approval of the variance will provide substantial justice to the applicant. It will allow them to construct a structurally sound shed to meet their storage needs, and it's not adverse to the interests of other property owners or the zoning ordinance. The new shed, although larger, is located approximately the same place where the current shed stands and is going to be demolished. The site has a dense cover of vegetation, shrubbery, and trees along the south property line, which effectively screens the shed from full view of the home that's located to their south. They're not going to be able to see anything. The third criteria is this the minimum variance needed? Now, as has been mentioned, the shed is located where the front and rear yard setback lines overlap, essentially not allowing for any type of construction over here. The way the shed is placed, it is designed to line up approximately to the front of the dwelling while still maintaining at least 15 feet from the east lot line. Maybe the variances could be made smaller if the shed were made slightly smaller, but then again, considering the lot coverage and the relative size of the shed and the dwelling, it is not an unreasonable request at this time. The next criteria is the variance is due to unique circumstances peculiar to the property. We believe The site is very unique, and this kind of triangular shape for a residential parcel, inverted triangle, is unusual. The location of the drain fields in the approximate middle of the parcel limits where structures can be constructed. We are not aware of many other AR zone parcels which not only are non-conforming in terms of lot area, but which are also so awkwardly shaped. We have seen other AR parcels that are 2 acres and 3 acres, but they're still rectangular in shape. This is very oddly shaped. The next criteria is whether the need for the variance is self-created. We believe the need for the variances is not self-created. The limitation is caused by the parcel's shape and the soil's perk capacity for drainfield location, and that is not a self-created hardship. The desire to have an accessory structure to serve the storage needs of a single-family dwelling is also not unreasonable. And finally, the proposed variances are not likely to have any adverse impact on the neighborhood or on public health, safety, and welfare. The shed is at a significant distance from the nearest dwelling. It's not going to affect any emergency access, egress, or quality of life issues for any of the neighboring properties. I would be happy to answer any questions. I'll serve my recommendation for later.
Thank you, Ms. Krishnan. At this time, I'm going to ask that if there's any members of the public that would like to speak on behalf of the applicant, raise your hand at this time. If you are on the phone, please press *6. All right, I do not at this time see any attendees that wish to speak on behalf of the applicant. If there is anyone that would like to speak in opposition of the applicant, you may press #6 now or raise your hand and we will call on you. This time, I don't see any members of the public that wish to comment. With that, I'll go back to Rob and ask if he has anything else to add. Rob, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. No, Miss
All
Christian made it pretty clear the situation, and it is true. The shed location is the most convenient to the house, whereas the other thing on the far end of the drain field, even if that were an option, that's bordering a creek, which is sort of not a wetlands area, but it's close to being a wetlands area. So that's even further reason not to do anything off that direction. More reason to put it right where we've drawn it. So that's really all I have to say. I just asked the board.
All right, sir.
Yep.
All right. Under new business, when we bring up this case and start deliberating, we may have questions for you. So if you could please just hang out with us and stand by. With that, this can conclude our public hearing, unless any of my board members have something they'd like to address under the public hearing. If not, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
All right, I'll support that. So motion by Otto, supported by Dignan to close the public hearing. Ms. Otto, could you please take a roll call vote?
Okay, Scott,
Aye.
Brad,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Jackie? Yes.
All right. The motion to close the public hearing passes. We'll move on. Number 7 is old business, which we have none at this time. Number 8 is new business. First item on new business is case ZBA 20003. Are there any questions or discussion that any questions for the applicant on this? I do know that, go ahead, Ms. Otto.
I was gonna say, because they came to us before, I think, and I don't remember who all was there, but I do understand this case, and I don't have any more questions on it than what we had before.
All right. I'll go a round table here. Mr. Kuzno, do you have anything that you'd like to ask?
Is there a motion on the table right now?
There is not at this time.
Okay,
I was just going around to see if there were any questions in the case 200003. Mr. Azar.
yeah, I mean, my question would be, did the petitioner understand the ordinance before they bought the property?
Okay,
I guess I can answer that.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, there was full understanding of the ordinance. But again, they purchased the property, then had it professionally surveyed, and had it wetland delineated, found that they are regulated wetlands that run across their property after the purchase of the property. As well as, even though there was understanding of the variance, that does not change our desire to preserve existing natural features as much as possible.
Okay, and then one other
And I think
question.
I can ask a question. Sure, go ahead, Brad.
In our packet, there's several examples of other private roads in the township. Who provided that information?
That was myself, just by basic research through Google Earth. I went around through the whole township, looking at the different constructed private roads as well as private drives, and was able to come up with those examples. I believe there are more, but I thought the 5 we provided were good.
Are you claiming that all of those are Class B private roads? Is that what I'm understanding by that?
I'm certainly claiming they are not built to Class A. None of those are 32 feet wide.
Do you know that for a fact?
Pretty sure. I guess I would lean on the township engineer to confirm or deny, but it is our understanding that none of those are built to Class A standards.
And did they receive variances to get what they got?
I do not know that off the top of my head.
Ms. Krishnan, can you help us out with that by any chance or not?
I don't know the history behind how those roadways were approved, but I do know that there are lots of Class B roads because I happened to be speaking to, before the pandemic shutdown happened and I was in the office, I happened to be speaking to the fire chief, and the discussion about Class A and Class B roads came up, and the fire chief told me, oh, there are so many Class B roads across the township serving residential properties, and it's not an issue for the fire department to do access. So there has been a precedent. I don't know if it's been variances or the roads were just approved as is. So at least from the time we have been over here, we have not seen any such request, but most of the roads that Brandon has given you examples of, they were built or approved for building a while ago. So I don't know what was done at the time, whether there is any history of variances for this.
Okay.
We make it a
I
point
think a
when
lot of those
somebody,
came through planning. Go ahead.
we make it a point when anybody approaches the township with regard to wishing for a lot split, we make sure we let them know, if you split it, then you need frontage requirements. Frontage means roadway, so make sure you do your due diligence before you buy the parcel. We make sure to let people know that.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah, we make it a point of it.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that they're proposing 3, there's a potential for 4 splits, I'm guessing, based on one remaining is a 10-acre parcel out there. I don't think it's a real detriment to our overall character of the township or even setting a precedent. I do have issues with, people buying stuff, assuming they're going to get it should be, would be a condition of the purchase of the property versus go buy the property and then ask for a variance after the fact. But in reality, 3 building parcels in this area is not that big a deal, but it does seem, I don't know, sometimes it's difficult to make these decisions that way.
Yes, Ms. Christian?
I believe at the last meeting when you discussed it, the ZBA directed us to take back to the Planning Commission to consider an ordinance amendment to allow Class B roads if it were strictly residential uses, so people don't have to come to you for variance. We did present that to the Planning Commission, but I believe the Planning Commission wanted that direction to come from the board. But I think it's definitely something to be considered. But a Class B road serving single-family residential, limited number of lots is not a bad thing because it prevents more runoff from impervious surface area. So, and it can actually benefit in some cases. So
Right.
that is something that we should try and address in our zoning ordinance, but I'm not sure what the correct channel the Planning Commission wants it to reach them through. So that might be.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that maybe we should put a maximum number of homes,
Correct.
maybe that could be served by a Class B private road.
Correct.
And I don't know what the number is, quite honestly, but I think there's something to that. So there's some discussion to be had there, I think, in the long run.
I would agree with that. Ms. Christian, I do have a question. The applicant here doesn't need a variance if they just built a Class A road. That's the reality is today they could build a Class A road all the way back and build houses on that. I do know that when we looked at this parcel at previous times, the residents around there had some very deep concerns about runoff and the waterways. And I thought that a Class B road was the right solution, not only for this applicant, but for ensuring the protection of the individuals who own property around this parcel. That a Class B road was much more suited to the use and much more suited to the intensity of use. You know, I really have a real hard time when we have something that they could come in and put in something, a massive structure, and I'll call a Class A road a massive structure in this case, compared to a Class B road. And just, they could have done it without coming forward to us. And coming forward to us, I understand there's financial benefit to that, not having to build it as big, but coming forward to us gives us the opportunity to only give them some relief from that, but to give residents that surround them relief from the potential environmental impact of a Class A versus a Class B road. So yeah, that's something I think is important to identify. I'd like to Mr. Gustafson first and see, do you have anything, Scott, to add or questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I'm all set.
Okay. All right, Miss Otto.
I did do just a quick search on our archives just to see when was the last one that we did. The first one I pulled up was from March 30th, 2015, where we did a variance from a Class A to Class B.
Wasn't that for a cell tower?
It could have been. No, this
I think it was for a cell tower.
No, this one
No?
wasn't for a cell tower. This was someone's home.
Was it? Okay. Oh, and they put in a, you know what? And they put in a pond, I think, at the
Yes.
end for
That was
to
a-
meet. Yes, I remember that case.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that case, and that met the fire department's need for the potential for water down there where they were.
Right.
Well,
There were a lot of circumstances there. All right. Go ahead, Fred. Mr.
Well,
Kuzma.
I think that's a separate issue altogether. I
No.
believe that the fire department dry pond requirement, one kicks in over 1,000 feet no matter what. So that's not part of our variance at all. And that would be a whole nother issue, correct?
Yes, but I think I just wanted to answer your question. Have we done a variance from a Class A road to a Class B. I mean,
Okay,
I,
I'm just saying, I'm clarifying what Ken said, that we're not relieving these people of the fact that they need to still satisfy whatever the requirement is for to meet the township requirement for the dry pond situation.
Correct. The only thing we are addressing is a Class A versus a Class B road.
right.
Yeah.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion, unless anyone has any other comments. Give me 1 second to, my papers get a little shuffled here.
Would you like me to make my recommendation?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Based on our review of the proposal and lack of any opposition at the public hearing too, it is our recommendation that the Zoning Board of Appeals approve the requested variance for the parcel located at 587 West Northfield Church Road for the following findings of fact. 1, elimination of the commercial use reduces the intensity of uses proposed for the site. 2, other areas of the township have Class B roads serving single-family dwellings. Approval of the variance is not likely to set a precedent. Approval of the variance may allow for additional tree preservation and wetland protection. The variance requested is the minimum possible. The problem resulting in the need for variance is partly self-created. The variance will have no detrimental impact on public health, safety, or welfare. The variance requested is not adverse to the spirit and intent of the ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Christian. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Question.
All right, I will hold back on my motion, Mr. Kuzno.
I just I'm trying to figure out a way. I know they removed the grow facility from the proposal initially. What kind of condition would be put upon this thing to prevent them from, kind of backdooring this thing, get the approval first and then ask for the grow facility there? There's nothing precluding them from asking for the grow facility after they get approval. Is that true or not?
We could reinitiate the
Yes,
grow
Ms.
application.
Christian.
Sorry. We could reinitiate the grow application. However, a grow application is still a special land use requirement that requires Planning Commission and Township Board of Trustees approval. If they're not providing a paved surface, it will not meet the site plan review requirements. It will come back to the same spot they are in right now. It will come back to the same place where paved access is required for a commercial use, or it will not meet the special land use considerations. So this will not be a means to bypass the grow operation, get the grow operation.
No, I just want to make sure that we aren't going to, kind of get the cart before the horse here.
No, I think my motion may address that as well. So my motion is to approve the request for case JZBA 2000003 for 587 West Northfield Church Road, based on the findings of fact in the letter dated September 13th, 2020 from McKenna and Associates, to grant a variance from a Class A road to a Class B road to serve single-family dwellings only. Is there support for that motion?
Support.
Okay. Sorry about the dog. There's a motion by Dignan, supported by Otto. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, Ms. Otto, would you please have a roll call vote?
Jackie, yes. Brad,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Ken,
I vote yes. Motion carried. Brandon, you are all set, and once the minutes are typed up, you can then go to the township hall to pull your permit. Is that correct, Ms. Krishnan?
Yes, yes. Their next step will be
All right.
to reach Mary Bird, and Mary will direct them on what they need to do next.
Excellent.
Is there a site plan approval? Is there a planning commission approval required for a private road or not?
Yes, yes, it is. So
There
Mary
you go.
will direct them on what that's. I don't know if they've already started that process and it got held because of the Class A, Class B issue, but they'll proceed with planning commission approval and then construction of the.
Right, so it's not pull a permit the next move.
Yep,
It's
not pull a
go to planning
permit.
commission. Yeah.
Right.
After approvals.
Well, thank you
All right.
guys. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for investing in the community. All right, the next item on our agenda is new business is case JZBA 2000002. I do have some questions myself on this. If the applicant is on, that maybe they can address. As I looked through documents here, you know, I kind of have a hard time calling a 500 square foot outbuilding a shed. You know, I think of a shed as a 12 by 16 or smaller temporary structure. This is substantially bigger than that.
Yeah.
My question is also what the potential, what is the use of this shed? Because I saw some plans and divided, and there was a large plant section, a small plant section. I'm just curious what the use of this building is.
Well, what, can you hear me?
Yes.
We
Okay.
can.
Okay. The mom's love is Susan Morris, who bought the property for her son, and her son was growing mushrooms for restaurants. It's a special spidery looking mushroom. But the basement keeps flooding. It's not a controlled area, and everything needs to be perfect for these things to be successful. And so that's what I found when I went down to do, we've already done one drainage thing in the basement, a perimeter drain inside the basement to try to dry it out that way. Now we're going to do the outside part. But anyway, in addition to that, that's how this shed came to be, because I told Susan, you need to get these things out of the house, because they're mushrooms and they require special treatments, everything's special, and there's nothing about a house that is controlled for the mushrooms. So as far as I know, that's what's going to be going on in there. That's why it's got the different areas too cordoned off in it, and a wash basin and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw a work area. Ms. Krishnan.
I was under the impression that this shed is for personal storage of materials. Is this for commercial cultivation of mushrooms?
It's not commercial. It's his experiment for something new to do, because there's been some difficulties lately, and he wants to start a new way of dealing with life. And so he's looking to see what he can do as far as his talents go. And then if it goes commercial in any way, he's got to go somewhere else to do that. I understand that. I mean, he understands that too.
So for now, it's going to be just more like his hobby growing of commercial.
Right. And yeah, right. And the first section of it is storage, but right. That's why we divided the back section for him.
I just want to make sure that this is something that is, because we do allow accessory structures where people do their own woodworking, or, it's like their space to do their personal hobby. That would be okay. But if at any point of time this ventures into business or commercial territory, please make sure to reach out to the township, because you will need additional approvals. You can't just automatically do that.
Absolutely. They understand that. I understand that. Yes.
Thank you for the clarification on that. That was a concern of mine, and I don't want people going down a road that they think they're okay and then have a hiccup come in that causes a bunch of grief. I'd like to be able to help up front to alleviate any concerns like that and address them at the time, rather, so that, also so that we're not wasting your time as an applicant either. Are there other questions in regards to this applicant? I'll go around. Mr. Gustafson. Any questions at this time?
No, but seeing that this is significantly larger than the shed they're intending to replace, makes me question its location on the property. I understand the fact that this is an odd shaped property and that basically nothing on here would be a legal place to set it.
Right.
But given that it's so much larger than what it's being replaced, why not pick a less conspicuous location on the property to hide it? Like behind the house or?
Okay, there would, behind the house, let me get the drawing, but the behind the house is also very close to the east property line. Everything on the property is, the right-of-ways are all overlapped. The east overlap, the east right-of-way actually is the front of the house towards Whitmore Lake. And then the Whitmore Lake right-of-way is actually past the back of the house. So there's, even putting it behind the house isn't practical, as I don't think there's even room. Get
The
the drawing.
structure won't fit behind the house. They will be over the property line because the zoning ordinance has got a 10-foot separation distance requirement between the principal structure and an accessory structure. So in order for the shed to be placed 10 feet away from the back side of the house, it will end up being on top of the rear property.
Yeah, I see that with the 50-foot ROW and the 50-foot setback.
Well, but I feel like to agree that doesn't really matter because they're asking for a variance from the setbacks. So here, this is a large, new structure basically in the front yard. They're asking for a front yard setback.
Front, rear, and side.
Correct. Mr. Gustafson, if the shed were, if you have the drawing, either the survey or the architect's drawing there, it looks like there's a little bit of a backyard place where it could go, but there's two septic tanks, and one septic tank is right in line with the north end of the house building. So the space that looks like it's there on the drawing actually has one septic tank occupying that space right at the edge of the septic field, but it's between the house and the septic field right there. So that space
Is the land, the land directly east of this parcel, is that owned by the state of Michigan, for Highway 23, or is that owned by another private owner?
I believe that's another private owner, because I did a measurement to the next building in that direction, and it was, I don't remember now, but I sent it to Miss Christian. It's like 600, 700 feet to the next house. No, there's private property back there.
This property is located in the 8R district, and it's not unusual to have accessory structures in the front yard. In fact, it's the only zoning district in which we would allow sheds, pole barns, and all to be located in front of the house, in the front yard. Rest, every other district, it has to be placed in the rear. It doesn't look like an AR parcel because it's so much smaller than a standard 5-acre parcel. But it's really very unusual because it's got a creek ditch line bisecting it in the center. It's got a very narrow pie-shaped, significant setbacks, the highest setbacks that we require of any zoning district applicable to it. And then it's got septic tanks located in the center. So it's normally this parcel would be classified as one of those unbuildable parcels, but it's already got a home on it for a while. Yes, the shed could possibly be made smaller, but we looked at it from the standpoint that in an ag district, typically people do get larger pole barns and structures. This is relatively smaller compared to the size of the structures we approved for the ag district.
Right, and that's the little forest property to the east of them.
Yes,
So-
there's a lot of woods.
Yeah. Mr. Kuso?
I'm trying to figure out where this property is located, to tell you the truth. Where is it relative to North Territorial Road?
South of North Territorial.
It's actually
North
yep,
of it.
just north of Northfield Church. No, north of Northfield Church,
Correct.
south.
On the highway side.
Okay.
On the west side of US 23, east
Yeah,
side of
you-
Whitmore Lake Road, north of Northfield Church. So it's like a
Right.
tiny sliver that just sticks up over there.
Okay.
It's across the street from the Kleinschmidt residence, and their land.
Yeah. I mean, this is no bigger than a garage in reality. I mean,
Yeah.
17 by 28. It's actually not even as deep as a garage would be. Like 20 by 25 would be like a garage. So 17 by 28 is not much different than that. I mean, you got limitations on the property to begin with. I don't see a problem with it necessarily. I guess if it does become a commercial operation, that is a concern. What did you say the zoning was, Vidya?
Agriculture, AR.
So it's an ag, okay. And you said AR allows for garage for accessory buildings in the front yard?
Yes. If you ride through the township, there are pole barns all the time located right up front and the houses in the back somewhere. So yes, that's the only district where you can
Oh.
pretty much, as long as you comply with the setback, your accessory structure can be in the front.
And
And
well, how do you
mushroom
feel about
growing- Go ahead, please.
how do you feel about the 10-foot separation between the house and this building? Is there any requirement
I think.
there?
It's 10 feet, I think.
Yeah, it's 10 feet.
Yeah.
by
How do you feel
section.
about that? What's the requirement there, or is there a requirement?
There is a requirement for 10 feet separation between any accessory structure and a principal dwelling.
Okay,
It's,
so that's the
section-
minimum.
So it complies.
Yeah.
We do have other mushroom growing operations within the township, actually large scale mushroom
Yeah,
growing
we do.
operations. It is considered as agricultural. In fact, they supply to all of Metro Detroit. It's in the township. It's called Detroit Mushroom Company, I believe.
Yeah,
And
it's out on the east side of our township.
correct. And they supply mushrooms, gourmet mushrooms to just about all of the Detroit area, everywhere from downtown Detroit, top restaurants to everywhere. They are the suppliers. It is considered as an agricultural product, just like alfalfa or corn.
Yeah, I thought that was an outdoor operation though, isn't it? Is it mostly outdoor or not? Because
No, it's containers. It's the uses in container kind of structures. It's been there for a
Yeah,
long
mushrooms have to be planted indoors in containers.
they have to
I
be,
use,
come on, really?
well, yeah, well, for commercial,
I
but
think for commercial use, they do.
yeah, I use the soil for my garden from that
Huh.
comes.
It's
And I know a guy
smell
does mushrooms out in Chelsea. He says he's got 10,000 logs that he uses for his mushroom grow operation. I can't imagine that's indoors. I think it's an outdoor operation.
No, that
but-
would probably be outdoors, but I know in Pennsylvania where I used to live a long time ago, they inside. And,
Just the
Mm,
smell is not very,
If it's
Right.
well, doesn't-
uh,
Get
We're
this
talk-
out of the house.
we're talking mold.
yes.
exactly. All right.
Okay,
Anything else, Mr. Kuzno?
nope.
All right, Miss Otto, any questions or concerns from you?
No, I don't.
All right. Ms. Christian, would you like to go over your findings of fact?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on our review of the proposal, it is our recommendation that the Zoning Board of Appeals approve the requested variance for the parcel located at 6140 Whitmore Lake Road, subject to the following findings of fact. The subject site has an unusual inverted triangle shape. The front and rear setback lines intersect, creating a small buildable area. The north side of the site is limited by the location of septic drain fields. Possibly locating the shed 100 plus feet north of the existing dwelling would serve no purpose. The variances are not adverse to the interests of other property owners. Variance requested is the minimum possible. The problem resulting in the need for variances is not self-created. The variance will have no detrimental impact on public health, safety, or welfare, and is not adverse to the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We also would like to add to the recommendation that should the applicant ever convert the use of the shed for any type of commercial enterprise, they will need additional approvals from the township, and it cannot just be automatically done.
Okay, I'd ask Lisa if she heard that, if she could add that to your findings of fact. I do have which will be part of a motion. I do have a concern about number 4. I'd like to address that. Vidya, I don't know that I concur with number 4. While yes, 100 feet north of the existing dwelling is 100 feet, I mean, sounds to me as if it could serve the same purpose. It would just be a little longer walk. I mean, I have a concern with it would serve no purpose.
Okay. Please, in that
I
case,
believe
you can
it could serve the
always
same
reword it.
purpose. Okay.
Maybe you could call it would not serve convenient or something like that, or you could take that out altogether if you're not comfortable.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable. I think I'm gonna. Well, I'm gonna make a motion. I'd like to make a motion in case JZBA 2000002 for 640 Whitmore Lake Road. That the zoning board of appeals grant the variance necessary to build an accessory structure on the property, and that it be based on the recommendation and findings of fact of letter dated September 14th, 2020, with the exclusion of item number 4, which is possibly locating the 100-foot north of the existing dwelling would serve no purpose. I'd like to omit that, and ensuring that we add an item that if at any point in time the applicant converts the hobby of growing mushrooms to
Commercial.
a commercial venture, that it be that the applicant be required to come back to the township to seek additional approvals for such an operation. Is there support for that motion?
I support that.
Okay, the motion is made by Dignan, supported by Otto. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Otto, would you please take a roll call?
Scott,
No.
Brad,
Yes,
Ken,
Yes.
Jackie, yes.
Okay, motion carries 3-1. You can get with Mary Bird at the township to understand what your next steps are. Thank you for investing in Northfield Township. We greatly appreciate it. We always are happy to see folks improving their property.
Thank you very
Do you have any
much for,
questions for us?
no, just want to tell you, thank you very much for all the work that you guys do. I know that it's mostly volunteer. I mean, it's more hours than I could imagine. So thank you for putting it together, and thank you for approving this. And the people will be very happy. I'll give Susan a call right after this.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
night.
Take care.
Stay safe.
Yep. Next item on our agenda is item C under new business. It's zoning administrator's quarterly report. Ms. Christian, would you like to give a summary of your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A brief summary. Sorry, this report is slightly late because just trying to adjust to doing work remotely and making sure the needs of the residents are still met. The report is slightly delayed. In the second quarter of 2020, a total of 18 applications were approved, some for new dwellings, some for additions to existing dwellings, lots of new decks and pole barns, some new fences and a solar array. We did approve the standard fireworks application, which comes every year. And also there was a request by an applicant to construct an extensive residential development with both single family detached, multiple family, townhouse. It was huge. It is the parcel they were looking at was at the northwest corner of Whitmore Lake Road and North Territorial. They call it Chestnut Development. Now the uses that they were proposing and the intensity that they were proposing, the only way it is possible is as a PUD. So we sent the applicant on their way, told them to do their research, and if they're interested, to go ahead and approach the planning commission. That's what I told them.
Where was that located
Ms.
at?
Chris,
Yes. Northwest corner of Whitmore Lake
I got a
Road and
couple-
North Territorial.
it's the Leland Farm, and you said
Yes.
that the density was what? That it was such.
It was very high density. The parcel is zoned
Because
LR.
well, it's zoned LR, but it's future land use to MDR,
Yeah,
medium density residential quarter acre lots.
yep.
It's zoned quarter, I mean, it's zoned LR, which is 2 acre zoning, but it's future land use as medium density residential. And I remember this is the gentleman I think went to call to the public a couple times that,
Yes.
and he was looking to do a density that was a little less than quarter acre lots. It was actually less than our MDR requirement.
Yeah, he had commercial uses proposed for the corner, and he had senior housing proposed. He had townhouses proposed, and single family residential dwellings. So I think it was much more intense than even a quarter acre. It was really high density. It was 75 on a total of 7 acres, 7.13 acres. They were proposing 75 single family dwellings, 208 multiple family dwellings, and an additional assisted
No, that was
living
on 90 acres. But that was on
I'm sorry?
90 acres. That was on 90 acres. I remember him at the call to the public. It was the Leland, the
That quarter lot.
one parcel owned by Dennis
86.7
Leland.
acres.
It was the 90 acres, like 87, 88 acres.
Right, right. I'm
plus
sorry. The total
more.
parcel was, yes, 86.78 was for the residential development, and the additional 7.13 acres was for an assisted living facility, and additional 3 acres was for commercial uses. So it was like
Okay.
a whole development by itself. And that the only way to accomplish that is as a PUD. So they were approaching.
Sure, yeah. Sure. I remember looking at that in our future land use map, and it sounds like they basically took the drawing out of our future land use map. Because I remember that corner is like high in density commercial, high, and then that parcel of land is divided up into 3 types of uses in our future land use map, I remember. But anyway, I guess we'll see if he proceeds
It's an
forward or
ambitious
comes forward with
project,
more
so
information.
Now,
So-
it's going back to the land, planning commission, is that what he's doing?
he will have to go back to the planning
Okay.
commission as out of hits,
Okay.
because a PUD, that is his first point of negotiation. He will first have to meet with the township planner, put together concept drawings, come before the planning commission and show them the concept drawings and see if the planning commission is even receptive to it, and then start working. A PUD process is significantly
Right.
involved.
Okay.
Jackie, this was like, I'll come to Mr. Kuzno in just a moment. Jackie, this was the gentleman at your call to the public that talked about water issues. Do you
Yes, I
remember
do
that? He was
remember.
talking
Yep,
about
I
water
do
issues
remember.
with the property, and
Mhm.
he that's the gentleman, and he is. I know that he was going and trying to work with the Michigan Department responsible for water permits, but so I think he's doing that first before he comes back to the township. But you're right. I think it would be a rezoning to the MDR, the PUD, or something to that effect, either one or the other. But Mr. Kuzno, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I mean, that's Gronow, right? I think his name is Mr. Gronow.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just
Yes, it
curious,
is.
was there
Yes, it
actually a
is.
formal submittal made to you at this point in time, BD, on that property?
No, just a zoning compliance, which is step 1. The zoning compliance tells them whether the project is even, like if you're proposing an industrial uses an ag, right off the bat, I will deny it on a zoning compliance. Zoning compliance first step tells them, okay, now you can go before the planning commission and start pitching your concept drawings. At least the basic fundamental use being proposed can be considered for the parcel. Residential use, and at the corner commercial with PUD if they want PUD. So we sent them on to
Right.
tell them what the next step is.
He has introduced himself to the planning commission on more than one occasion, saying he's got, ambition for that property, which is, I think it's a nice approach to come forward, and he hasn't submitted anything formal yet. So, but it's, I think senior housing is good. I think that commercial is good in that area. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen in that space. I mean, as long as Stewart is available, and I'm hearing that water is not currently available, so there's no public water there. We have to go to like a community well or something. Is that effect?
Well, if I remember what he talked about publicly, it had to do with the borings and the sand granular, how much the sand was and whether they could get the volume for 300 units or something. So I think they're trying to find an area that they can get a well that would suffice to that. And then, they have to send that up to the state of Michigan, and the state of Michigan's got some new person in charge of water stuff. And they've never, the new person hasn't approved a well since she took office up there. So she's from California. But that's, I'm just telling you the facts. It is what it is. And that's across the entire state. She hasn't approved a well like that. So, but, I'm just going from comments he made at the call to the public.
Yeah.
I think it was at the board meeting that I mean, I'm excited that he's looking at that property, and, I hope that, and I'm sure Vidya and are just, making sure that any applicant fully understands our future land, or, our master plan. And that's where we're trying to get to. And, I mean, I know that's the community has been pretty adamant in regards to supporting the master plan. And if a plan comes forward that fits that master plan, then hopefully we'll have something for at least our plan commission to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Couple of
All right,
administrative.
sorry to interrupt you, Vidya.
No problem. I also
Alrighty.
did a couple of administrative reviews. One was for the Northfield Human Services Food Pantry on Brookside. It is classified as local commercial. It was previously a laundromat, so it was a change of use. They weren't changing the footprint of the building, so I could administratively approve it. Did require improvements because the zoning ordinance does require some amount of improvements. So Improvements included sidewalks, pavement restriping for parking to make it compliant for barrier-free accessible so wheelchairs can access it. Putting in some landscaping, a dumpster was not being used, removing it, putting in new light fixtures and changing the signage. So overall, a nice facelift for the site so that the food pantry serves the community for a long time. The other project I reviewed was the Northfield Community Center's parking lot expansion. That is under the purview of administrative approval until I came to the point where they were not paving it with asphalt, and I cannot deviate from the ordinance, so I send them on to the Planning Commission, and I believe the Planning Commission has got the authority to grant that deviation, and they did. They accepted a slightly alternate material to asphalt, which is fine. It's just that I cannot do something that deviates from the ordinance at all. So those were the two. The only one ZBA case we had was the Azar case, which was previously just tabled because we didn't consider it at this time. Although I'm not doing regular office hours every Wednesday I'm busy. On Tuesday evening, Mary sends me a whole list of applicants, their questions. So Wednesday morning, literally 3-4 hours, I just sit calling every single applicant, talking them through their projects, sketches, and doing. So we have not missed a beat, even though we are in unusual times these days. Any homeowner or property owner who needs help, we are still available anytime. I'm available by phone. I answer calls, emails, in any which way to help them. So that's pretty much the summary for the quarter. This current quarter has picked up. I have had a lot of zoning compliance applications. Marijuana was one of the main things of the last quarter. A lot of marijuana applications were coming in. They're all past zoning compliance. They're all with the Planning Commission at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kuzno, you folks had somebody at the Planning Commission the other night, if I remember right, that's been trying to get through since March. I'm trying to remember right hand. I'm just pulling up the agenda to look.
Terra Firma?
Terra
Firma.
Terra Firma. I'm as a zoning board of appeals member, I am extremely frustrated to hear some of this, and I'm hoping, Vidya, you can kind of reflect some light on this. These
This would be
folks
the
have been
second
waiting
time that they
since
would
March to come
us.
yeah, but they've been waiting since March, and now they're being told because the planning. I'd like some help here as to why it took from March till now, till September, for them to be told they had to come back to us again. I just, when we do things like this to applicants and drag them out or change where the ball is, change the requirement, and I'm only saying this as I've been an applicant before here in this township, and for 2.5 years the township changed the target. For 2.5 years they constantly changed the target and made it impossible, and we were a church. Commercial industry can't do that, can't be drug out that long. It costs them money, and it turns people away. It makes them think, you know what, I'd rather go somewhere else than deal with this stuff. And when I heard that, and
Christian, Ken,
go ahead, Brad.
my understanding is that they were before us in November of 2019. They were given specific direction at that time in November, and they never came back to us until just this last month. And then there's a question, I can't remember the exact details. Honestly, I don't remember. But there was a question of whether they should even be before the Planning Commission without having gone before the ZBA. I can't remember what the variance requirement would need to be done. Honestly, it was last week. I don't remember what it was, but they were given specific direction back in November, and they did not come back to us until just recently to ask for whatever they're asking for. So it was kind of
and my understanding was they came. My understanding was they did come back to the planner back in March, and the planner didn't bring it to you until just now, and that's where I have my problem. Vidya, do you have any insight into that? I don't want to put you on the spot. Go right ahead, please.
I understand. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know the full details of the case, but I have spoken to the planner before, and I'm confident enough in saying if the planner did not bring the case back before the Planning Commission, it is because the applicant probably did not provide what the Planning Commission had specifically asked for. When the Planning Commission says bring back items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the applicant submits only 1, 2, the planner typically would not make a recommendation and put them back on the Planning Commission agenda till those items are met. With Terra Firma, I know there were some issues about them actually getting far enough in the project and then changing their mind about certain aspects of the project, which caused them to go back to the drawing board and fix it. But I will get you an update from the planner as to the exact timeline of it, but I can say with a certainty that the planner would not have willfully delayed the project at all, because our job is to help facilitate projects. So I will try and get an answer on that one.
There is
Yeah,
a
because
detail
I'm looking back here just briefly.
Let me
Brad, you
address
might need to start
that.
over.
Ken. There was an issue that it seemed like the planner had given the petitioner the impression that perhaps the Planning Commission would allow them to proceed with a condition of variance approval from the ZBA. So it's kind of a cart before the horse thing. It was an unusual situation. So my sense is, and I remember that the chairman of the Planning Commission did give our planner some grief for why it was there before us without getting the variance first. And there was some discussion as to whether or not it was absolutely necessary to have the variance first, or could it be conditionally approved with the variance forthcoming. So that to me, was an unusual situation. And again, I think it could have been averted had the petitioner provided better information sooner, rather than saying, gosh, I need to have this thing done before winter's coming right now. Winter's coming around the corner. I need to get this thing approved, when he's had several months to submit information that he didn't provide to us till just now.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not my role at this point to look at that. I'd ask the board to really identify the timeline on that, because it just, that's the kind of thing that really gets an applicant up arms, and then they come before us. And certainly had they been guided early on that they were going to need a variance, between March and now, we would have definitely heard their case, at least to consider it. I think that's always the case. Like I said, the detail of the Planning Commission thing do escape me, but I think it had to do with something that the Planning Commission had done previously with a previous applicant, and
Same applicant.
Felt that
Same applicant.
but they granted it before. They granted it before, but decided that I believe Mr. Roman stated we can't continue to do this. Has to go before the ZBA, and the planner said, "Oh, I thought you would just be able to take it up." So, I mean, if we can get an understanding, because my understanding is Terra Firma is going to probably be on our agenda next month.
Yeah, they were trying to fast track it for today, actually.
Right, but
They're
they didn't have
hoping to
notice
maybe
time.
get something in this week, but there's no way it could have happened between last Wednesday and today. So it wasn't going to happen.
Right, not for proper public notice. That's
right.
The public notice is the key part there. And by the time they do public notice and publication, it's going to be our next meeting anyway. So, but all right. Let's see, anything else? Any ZBA, let's see, we had the minutes from our July 20th meeting. Are there any changes, comments, questions?
No.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the July 20th meeting?
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Kuzno, supported by Otto. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the July 20th meeting, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Let's see, our next meeting will be on October 19th, 2020. ZBA member comments. We'll start with Mr. Gustafson. Any comments?
No comments.
Okay, Ms. Otto,
I don't have any comments at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Kuzno.
No comment, thank you.
Okay, I don't have any. Else that you'd like to leave us with this evening?
I'm all good.
All right, excellent. With that then, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
And is there support?
I'll support.
All right, motion by Kuzno, supported by Otto. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None. Thank you, folks. I appreciate public attendees who attended, and we're glad we were able to help out some folks here in Northfield Township. All right. Vidya,
Thank you.
do you think there's a chance you could give me a call tomorrow? I just want to go over a couple of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will give you a call.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank
All right,
you.
guys.
Good night,
Thank-
everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Night.
Good night.
Yep, thanks. Bye. Night.